Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Christian Answers for Today. My name is Pastor Jeff Short, and I cover different topics in the news from a Christian perspective. Today, we're going to continue to talk about the whole revolution that's happening in our society over transgenderism and those related items in the news. Now, I'm a little bit tired of this topic. I'm a little sick of it. I'm a Bible teacher. I teach the Bible. I teach on the Christian worldview, and I teach all kinds of topics. But you can't ignore this topic because it's in the news all the time, and we're being assaulted by a secular worldview that wants to force this down our throats and wants to force this into conformity. It wants society to go in its direction and wants this is a total acceptable thing. And we have to resist it, and we have to say why we resist it. And we have to explain why we oppose it. And so that's why I'm still on this topic. We're talking today about Bruce Jenner and his photo shoot where he, I guess, officially becomes a woman, according to people, and changes his name and does all kinds of magazine covers and everything like that. Well, what I found interesting is that the perspective on this whole transformation of Bruce Jenner into this woman is something that most women have fully embraced. Almost 99, almost 100% of all women that I have heard from on the internet, on television, on radio, in magazines, newspapers, in print, almost 100% of the women that have voiced their views on this have supported this whole transformation, which is very shocking, but not all have. And I have today a video clip of a woman who definitely does not agree with this and who is not afraid to say she doesn't agree with it. But before we get to that, I'd like to give an example of the typical response in the media, of women in the media who respond to this. And this is Cathy Lee Gifford, who is on NBC television, and she is in support of Bruce Jenner transitioning, so-called, into a woman. And I'd like to take a few moments of today's program to just comment on some of the things that she is saying, because she's trying to be nice and kind and loving, and yet at the same time she doesn't realize she's endorsing something that it is opposed by God and contradicts the Bible and is opposed by everything Christianity teaches. So I want to comment on that. And so we'll roll her video clip of her response to the Bruce Jenner transformation and then comment on it. Let's watch that now.
Of course, nobody is talking about anything other than, well, let's look at the headlines.
These. You know what's funny about this? And Kath, you've known Bruce and Chris forever.
Yes.
You know what's so funny? This is just how removed I am from the whole thing. So yesterday I was about to do my radio show. It was 1:30 in the afternoon. And my producer comes up over at Sirius and she goes, I guess you're going to want to lead with this. And she plops down this picture. And I go, I don't know her. And I go, no, I don't think so. Because sometimes I thought, well, maybe it's from some weird show I've never seen. I go, no, thanks. And she goes, no, look closely. I think you want to lead with it. And I looked, I go, I don't know. Call me Caitlin. Like, who's Caitlin? And she said, look again. And I looked again. All of a sudden, boom, like all of a sudden you see his features pop up. But it just shows how different that image is from the one, I mean, you've known forever.
Yeah, I think the Daily News actually expresses it. There is a sense of by Bruce, because he was so much a part of the he was an iconic figure, and he represented who goes on a Wheaties box, and I loved Bruce, and I still love Bruce, and I'm going to learn to love Caitlin because I've only spoken to her. But I have not been in a room with her, and so when I was talking to her on the phone maybe a month ago, right before the Diane Sawyer thing, it still sounded like my friend Bruce, even though what we were talking about was about the transitioning. So, I'm glad that she is being treated as lovingly in the public with this, because it does take a lot of courage to do what she's doing.
Okay, we want to comment on some of the things that she said. Right there at the end, the last part of her little talk about what's happening is she said that she's happy that people have been expressing their opinions lovingly, and that she is a very, or Bruce Jenner is a very courageous person for doing what he's doing. Well, let me talk about a couple of those things. First of all, it isn't unloving to disagree with what someone is doing. It isn't unloving, it isn't unkind to violently, not physically violently, but psychologically, spiritually, intellectually oppose what you are seeing happening. That is not unloving. It is unloving if you are calling people names and you are personally attacking them using four-letter words and you're using profanity and you're totally out of control. But if you see something that is evil, if you see something that is sinful, and if you say that it's sinful according to the Bible, that is not unloving. And so Cathy Lee is trying to say that she's happy that so much of people have given their opinions in a loving way. That is not the test of truth. You don't go through and say, gee, 99% of the people have supported what he's doing. Isn't that nice that 99% of the people have spoken lovingly and kind and nice of him? That is not the test of niceness and kindness and love. Love is the way in which you present something, not the content. If you disagree with what he is doing, his whole project, his whole reinventing of himself, if you believe that that is sinful according to the Bible, to say that it's wrong is not unloving. And I think one of the problems in society today is that the secular people and the people in the media and the people who are the opinion setters, they do not distinguish between dissent or disagreement and unloving, unkind speech. They think if you disagree, if you don't follow along and accept what is happening, if you don't accept 100% what Bruce Jenner is doing, you're unloving. That is false. That is not true. Loving, we have to speak the truth in love according to the Bible. And Cathy Lee is confusing love and disagreement. And as Christians, we violently disagree with what he is doing because he is taking the Bible and he's throwing it away. He's taking Christian truth and he's trampling on it. And he's also leading our culture into that also. So when we disagree with what he's doing, we are not unloving. We are simply saying we do not go along with the whole crowd that wants to applaud and celebrate what he is doing, because we see it as a perversion of the image of God inside of each person, and it's a rebellion against God as to how God made each individual, male or female. And so when Bruce Jenner is trying to so-called transition from a man to a woman, he is rejecting God's created order for his life, and he's trying to lead other people into that rejection also. So that's what we reject. We don't want to be unloving. And Cathy Lee is not correct when she says that the overwhelming majority of people have been loving and supportive of him. That is not love. That is simply going along with what they see ahead of them. Also, it is not true that she says that she's going to learn to love this other person. You can love someone and not accept what they're doing and not agree with what they're doing. And so she needs to really think through this. This is something that, as a Christian, and she says she's a Christian, she claims she's a Christian, she's in Christian magazines, she's written articles for different Christian magazines and publications, appears on TV, gives a testimony. She needs to think through what she's saying, because what she's saying is not biblical in her simply embracing what Bruce Jenner is doing. Well, let's see some more of this.
But it also is a very difficult process for the family. You just have to put yourself in their shoes, and you can celebrate one person's triumph, and also be aware that it's something that other people are dealing with very uniquely and differently and privately in their own ways.
Well, this is the point that a lot of people have not taken into consideration. Cathy Lee is trying to sugarcoat this over when she talks about the family, the difficulty the family's going through. Now, that is the understatement of the century right there. The difficulty the family is going through. Think about it for a second. Get beyond the whole carnival atmosphere of Bruce Jenner and think about the family. Here is a woman who was married to Bruce Jenner, his ex-wife, Chris. She's now divorced. They're divorced. Why? Because her husband wanted to become a woman. Is that grounds for divorce? Well, you can imagine if you're a wife and you have a husband and all of a sudden your husband wants to be what you are, which is a woman. Two women married like that is not going to work. And so this whole transformation, so-called, has destroyed his marriage, but that's not the worst of it. It has destroyed his family. His children now no longer have a father. His children now no longer have a male role model in their life because now this male is trying to be, for all intents and purposes, a woman. He's doing everything in his power to be a woman. That's totally what these children do not need. They don't need another woman in their life. They already have their mother. They don't need another mother. They need a father. They need their dad to stay a dad. They need their father to stay a father and stay a male and be the role model that he signed up for them to be. And this is what Cathy Lee is trying to say, trying to point people to the fact that this family is being torn up, shredded, ripped up, and made to go through all of this carnival atmosphere simply because Bruce Jenner feels like at this point in his life he wants to be a woman. And so he's taking his whole family, divorcing his wife, and doing everything to break up this family to try to get to his goal, which is to be, supposedly, a woman. And so Cathy Lee is right. She's underscored it and understated it tremendously, but she is right in this instance. Let's watch some more.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that grace will be our guiding force with this, because and that people will continue to be kind.
Well, again, she's talking about she is hoping that people will be kind. Now, the problem with that is, what does that mean? Does it mean that you shouldn't speak out against what he's doing? Should you just sit back and if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything? I don't think so. Because we're supposed to point out evil. We're supposed to warn people about danger. We're supposed to rebuke those who are going in the wrong direction. And we're not to sit back and simply say, well, I better not say anything because it's not unkind. It's unkind if I do. It won't be kind. She is trying to set up a situation where this person, Bruce Jenner, will not hear anything unkind. Well, he is going to hear something unkind, and he should hear something unkind. Not in the sense that you're calling him a name, but you're trying to explain to him that what he's doing is wrong, and that will appear to him, that will sound to him as unkind. But we need to go ahead and continue to criticize what he's doing, and we need to point this out that it's wrong to other people, whether that sounds unkind, whether that sounds unloving, and whether it sounds mean, and whether it sounds hateful. It shouldn't be hateful, but it may sound hateful if you're pointing out something like this. And especially to him, Bruce Jenner himself, it may really hurt him to hear that, but he needs to hear that. He needs to hear that what he's doing is wrong. And he needs to hear that it's irresponsible as a husband and as a father, what he's doing and what he's putting his family through and what he's putting everyone through. This is wrong. And we need to go ahead and say it, whether it sounds, quote, unkind or not. We need to do it in a loving tone. We need to do it in a loving manner and say, look, it's not personal. We're not attacking you. just because we want to be mean. We're saying what you're doing is wrong, and what you're doing to our society and leading people in this direction is wrong. And we need to call you on it, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what other people are trying to do as well. Let's watch some more.
And you were talking about like the essence of a person. I think that's an interesting
Well, you know,
thought.
I don't believe that God makes mistakes. That's my personal opinion. I do believe that God creates, he loves what and who he creates. If you believe that God is love, then God loves, he cannot hate.
Right.
Okay. And they say, is there anything God can't do? Yeah, he can't hate. He can, he loves. That is his essence. So I was talking to Caitlin, and I knew, he told me her new name at the time, but you know, you have to get used to the pronouns.
I'm confused.
But I basically said, you know what God created in you is the essence of you. The being that you are, whether you call yourself a man or a woman, whether you transition, whether you have your genitalia changed, this body that we're all in is temporal. This is, and our soul, I think, is what is eternal. So that being that God created was not a mistake. And God loves that person, however she sees herself.
Well, here Cathy Lee begins to do a little bit of theology. And unfortunately, she's winging it. She's making it up on the spot. It isn't something that she's done a lot of reflection about, obviously. She's coming up with this right on air. You can see the backdrop. This is New York City. She's in New York City. She's doing her show, and she is coming up with theology on the fly. And she's coming up with this idea that God created the essence of Bruce Jenner, whether he happens to be male or female. The essence of Bruce Jenner, God loves Bruce Jenner's essence, and so we all should love Bruce Jenner's essence. Well, part of that is true and part of that's false. First of all, God does love everyone. He loves the people that he has brought about, whether they are male or female. He loves the individual. But it is not correct to say that God did not create Bruce Jenner male and intended for him to be male. And it's not correct to say that God created this so-called essence of the person, but not necessarily their gender or their sexuality. That's false. God creates the essence of a person to be either male or female. So when God brings about a person in his divine will and his providence through whatever means that he brings that person about, he brings about a person's soul that is either male or female. The person isn't separated from their sexuality. There is no person that's just, God doesn't make a soul and just drop it into a physical body. God creates the person as a male or as a female, and that person has a soul. So that woman has a soul, or that man has a soul. When that person is born, that little baby girl has a soul. And when a baby boy is born, that baby boy has a soul. And God intended for that person to live out their life the way he brought them about, either male or female. So Cathy Lee Gifford's, again, trying to do this theology of kindness. She's trying to somehow take the fact that she likes this person that's a friend of hers and her family, support this person, and then take Christian theology and try to build it around what this person's doing. That's the wrong approach. You have to take the Bible for what it is and apply it to the world for what it is. And if they're not compatible, you need to say they're not compatible. And in this instance, Bruce Jenner, what he's doing is not compatible with the Bible. It's not in accord with God's will for our lives as human beings. And so we need to point that out. We need to not sugarcoat it. We need to not smooth it over with all kinds of flowery language. We need to say right out on this level, this is not right. Now, that is Cathy Lee's response, and that's probably the response of 99% of all the women, but that's not the response of all the women. There's a woman named Connie K who has an entirely different point of view, and I might add it's the accurate Christian worldview, and we want to look at Connie K and see what she has to say, and I can guarantee you it's a lot better than what Cathy Lee has to say as far as what the Christian perspective is on this issue. Let's watch.
Recently, Bruce Jenner came out on, he made his sort of debut as a woman to the world on Vanity Fair magazine, and before that he did a hour-long or 2-hour-long interview with Diane Sawyer on Channel 7, and then after that he did like a 2-part special on E! Channel, kind of showing what it was like to come out to his family members and get their reactions and stuff like that. I watched all of it. I watched all of it because I really wanted to get a good sense of where he was coming from, and so that I could actually make a video on this topic and really give a Christian perspective. And this video is in no way condemning Bruce Jenner. In fact, my heart goes out to him and his family, because him doing this, if you guys don't think that this is disturbing or just completely insane in any sort of way, then I don't know what to tell you, because that's the reaction, that's my first natural reaction, was there's something really wrong with this guy. There's something really wrong, and it's so much more than just a changing of your gender to make yourself happy. This is not, it's a lot deeper than that, you know, and as a Christian person, and the worldview that you take, the worldview that you have is going to determine how you feel about this whole, you know, transgender thing, and especially this Bruce Jenner thing, okay? Depending on your worldview, whether you come from an atheistic type of worldview, or if you come from a God worldview, a Christian worldview, you're gonna have completely different belief and view on this, okay? So for me, as you guys, most of you guys know, I'm a Christian and I come from the Christian worldview. This is the way I see this whole thing, okay? And to me, it is wrong, it is abnormal, it is an abomination, there's something almost evil about it, and I truly believe that we are spiritual beings, okay? Spiritual beings living out a human existence. We're not human beings living out a spiritual existence. It's the other way around. And there is a spiritual dimension, okay? And I truly think that Bruce Jenner is demonized. There's some sort of a demonization going on. There is a brokenness, and this is just an indication of what most of the world is like. Pop culture is a reflection that we are living in a godless society, a godless world where people do not acknowledge and respect and give reverence to and honor God. They don't want to acknowledge that they are created from a creator, okay? So it's just mind-boggling to me. These people on the internet, I've watched YouTube videos, I've seen people talk about this whole Bruce Jenner transformation thing. And so many people are like, oh yeah, if he's happy, you know, then by all means, he should do whatever makes him happy and fulfilled. And this is where pop culture comes in and is a reflection of just doing things to make yourself happy. It's about self-glorification. It's about self-worship, okay? And it's a complete reflection of people living in a godless society where God is just something that is not even a consideration, you know, and it's just put on the back burner, and it's just, the depravity of man is just so evident in our world today. And we take things that are wrong, we take things that are an abomination, and we turn it around, okay, and say that it's fine. We say that it's a good thing, you know, and I remember Bruce Jenner saying in the interview that, oh, what he's doing is going to change the world, you know, that it's going to make the world a better place, a place where, you know, people can learn to be more tolerant and all that. No, I'm not going to tolerate. No, I'll tolerate you because we're living in this world. Obviously, I'm going to tolerate you, but don't ask me to accept something that is wrong and unnatural and goes against God's design. Okay? People kind of confuse tolerance and acceptance. Like, if I'm not going to accept your lifestyle, then somehow I'm an intolerant bigot. Okay? And this is just a reflection that the world has gone insane. Absolutely insane. This is madness. People, if you don't have God as the moral foundation and as the standard for moral living, okay, then anything goes. Anything goes. You know, man is so depraved that they have these fleshly desires and they just give into it. That's what it is to live in a godless society. We're gonna just give in to whatever makes us feel happy. You have been so brainwashed by this world, by the media, by current pop culture. You have been lied to for so long that you don't even have a moral compass anymore. You don't know what it means to listen to your conscience. Conscience, which was given to us by God to give us a sense of what is right and wrong. This is the way I see Bruce Jenner, is that he has really, really deep underlying issues, okay, that are so deep that it's manifesting in this way. It's almost like you could just see the insecurity all over him, you know, with all the cosmetic plastic surgery that he's had on his face, and the fact that he was living in, you know, with the Kardashians and their crazy life, and he used to be this big star, he was this famous athlete, and then no one was paying attention to him, and now, you know, he wasn't getting really any respect from his wife or, you know, his kids or anything like that, and this was eating away at him for years, and it would cause such a brokenness, and he was already a very insecure, broken person to begin with, and then it just progressively got worse. And this is why this is not about a gender identity issue. It goes far deeper than that. This is about understanding who we really are, okay? We were made in the image of God. We are valued by God. However, we are tainted because of sin.
Well, that was Connie K, and I hope that you can see that what Connie K was saying was a lot more in line with the scriptures and a lot more faithful to the Christian faith than anything Cathy Lee said. And I hope that this episode today has pointed out the very importance of getting these things right. We need to not let our culture determine how we process things. We need to let God, through His Word, the Bible, determine how we process things. And when we do that, then we will think correctly on these issues. We will not be blown about by every wind of doctrine. We will not be tossed about by our culture. We will be in a position to lead our culture into the truth of God. And I hope that you have discovered the truth of God today. And I hope that you will continue to hold fast that truth, even in the wind of culture that is going against us at the present moment. So God bless you. Thank you for watching this episode of Christian Answers. We'll see you back next week at the same time.